Over the last 7 years, we've built our lives abroad, navigated the challenges of becoming parents in a foreign country, and learned more than we ever imagined along the way. Today, we are sharing all of those experiences in an exciting new chapter of our lives, one that includes home renovations, family adventures, and a major lifestyle pivot. Keep watching to see just how much things have changed and why we are so thrilled about what is coming next. Hey guys, welcome back to Native Nomads vlog. So happy you all are here. Have a lot to catch up on in this video. As you may have known, we bought a house in Mexico, we became parents abroad, and we recently got our van paperwork finalized and we'll be converting it soon to have family adventures around Mexico. So life has totally changed for us, and with that, our channel is evolving as well. So we want you to stick around to find out all the new exciting things that are coming next. If you're new to the channel, we are the Native Nomads vlog, and we are all about adventure, about travel, and coming on to 7 years that we have been up and running on YouTube, which is just blows my mind. We also have a blog, which is nativenomadlife.com, if you want to check it out with, articles that we post about mainly travel related. But 7 years ago, we really didn't know what this adventure held. We were originally planning on doing a 2-year adult gap year, because most gap years are for kids just out of college. We were in our 30s and we were living a pretty great life in Portland, Oregon, but we had this call to adventure, that there was more beyond the horizon that we wanted to explore. We didn't want to just settle down at that point. We didn't have kids. We love traveling and we just wanted to figure it out. So we got one-way tickets to Cancun, Mexico. And at the time we thought we were going to start off in Tulum. However, Nate found a volunteering project that was outside of a town called Mérida. Well, we had never heard of Mérida. We didn't know anything about it. I started doing some research before we went, realizing this is a town of at the time, I think it was about 1 million when we came here. That first volunteering project did not work for us. It was a little too rustic for what we were looking for at the time. However, it did bring us to Mérida. We did end up finding another volunteering with the Yucatan Giving Outreach, which I can link to another video that sort of goes over what that organization does, but it's amazing. We're still friends with the founder of the organization, Kimi Suki, doing amazing things for the community all over the Yucatan. What started as a 3-month volunteering position, which we thought was going to be it, right? And we were going to keep traveling. Our plan was really to go through Mexico, Central America, and then South America. Anyhow, that did not happen. We stayed in Mérida longer than 3 months. That 3-month position turned into about 1.5 years. Soon after that, we did go and we traveled. So we were always really into long-term travel, and Mérida sort of did become a base for 2 reasons. Number one, we had cats, and so they don't really like to travel. We thought maybe during that 2-year sabbatical that parents from either one of our sides would want to take care of the cats. It didn't end up working, so we had to bring the cats down to Mérida. So every time we would go and travel, we would have to make sure, we had a pet sitter or somebody who could house sit and then look after the cats. And so there was always sort of this thing that was bringing us back here. Even if we would travel for a couple months at a time, we were always coming back to Mérida to make sure the cats were okay. That still has been a pretty good dynamic. I think just over time, it's like we made more and more good friends. The second big thing that happened was the pandemic.
I did go to the grocery store yesterday for a few more things, used hand sanitizer crazy amount, I think 7 times when I was in there. Yeah, just trying to stay safe, trying to stay home.
Around the time that the pandemic hit, we had been here, I would say, for going on 2 years. And we didn't necessarily have any plans of leaving. However, the year before, we had gone to Southeast Asia for 3 months. Well, we were supposed to be there for 3 months, excuse me. We went to Southeast Asia for a couple of weeks, and that trip was cut short because I got really serious dengue fever, to the point where Nate thought like I was gonna die. It was terrifying. I was stuck in a like ICU hospital in Bali for a week. Once my vitals got back up and basically my blood platelets had like dropped to a really devastating number of like 10,000. Once those got back up and I was released, we came back to America for a couple months just to stay with family. And I think what we realized was like, okay, Mérida is this amazing place. We feel really safe there. Our cats are happy. You know, we started making this community of friends. This is an amazing home base. And I think with the scare of the dengue fever, it was like, okay, like, let's maybe put down a little bit more serious roots in Mérida. We can still travel, but it's always nice to know we have this place to come back. When we came back from America, 2019, we bought a car, which I know doesn't seem like a huge part of the story, but it kind of was, because I think with immigrating that car into Mexico, it started to make us feel more and more like, you know, we were immigrating here. We were really making this our life. I mean, to bring a car all the way down. I think it was around that time we decided like we want to get residency. Right before the pandemic happened, we actually were driving all the way up to, it was New Orleans, because we needed to get our car. At the time, we were just using the TIP, the temporary import permit. So every 6 months, like you have to actually like bring it out of the country. So we decided to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We took the car up to leave the country, like revive the 6-month TIP by leaving and coming back. And then also to start our, at the time, temporary residency process. And we did that you have to actually do it in a consulate. Yeah, in a consulate. Is it a consulate or an embassy? I'll get back to you on that. But on a consulate outside of the country that you're wanting to get the residency in. So we had to do it in America. We decided to do it in New Orleans. And it was actually funny. It was right around the time that Mardi Gras was starting. We weren't even there to be there during Mardi Gras. It just was super coincidental, but you know, saw a friend from like college that loves Mardi Gras and got to see a couple of the parades. We got all of our paperwork in. As we were driving back down to Mexico, and this was our 3rd cross-country Mexican road trip, by the way. Right around the time that we were driving back, we had heard reports, you know, news that this big epidemic like had just started in China and that it was starting to spread. But at this point, you know, it hadn't really come all the way over, but we were hearing, you know, little like bits here and there on the news. And I would say about a week after we got back, maybe a few days, the pandemic hit. And it was like serious at this point. I mean, it was right around, I want to say like March 16th, March 19th, something like that. And they were like, well, it's going to be a lockdown. And we don't know how long it's going to be, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. So we thought, okay, you know, that's fine. So at this point, we had already been kind of feeling like this was our home base. And, you know, we have got the car and we had like gotten also this like new house rental we're actually sitting in right now. And it just felt more and more like home. And so the lockdown happened, and with that, as you all know, the story of that was a lot longer than 2 weeks of a lockdown. And I just remember being here and being like, I'm so grateful that we are locked down here and not somewhere else. I mean, if I was going to be locked down anywhere, it would want to be here. And also around that time, we started noticing, I'd say a few months in, maybe a year later, like more and more foreigners, especially people from the States and from Canada, were coming down here to also try life living in Mérida. They were getting their temporary residencies, like they were getting all of their paperwork in place. And I was starting to realize like, the landscape is sort of changing here. There's more and more young people. There's more and more people that are working online. And at the same time, we had been figuring out, well, what are we doing in terms of making money? You know, we're not rich by any means. And so we had to figure that out. You know, how do you work remotely? How do you find work that sort of thing. And so it was nice to start to feel this community. It wasn't just retirees that were moving here who had money at their disposal. It was people who were still making a life for themselves and figuring it out and trying to figure out how to make money online, or, you know, have like enough money to eventually buy a house or that kind of thing. And so we started to see like, okay, maybe this, it all evolved. And then over time, I mean, just years went by. And so we've made this really rich community of lots of people from many different walks of life, people immigrating here from all over the world, from the US, from Canada, and then of course local friends that we've made here, and also people within Mexico who have moved here, whether it's from Mexico City or Querétaro. So there's this rich diversity of people. Having a lot in common with some of the new friends that we've made has been amazing, just in terms of like, you know, we're designing this life of our dreams and we're in this beautiful paradise and we feel so grateful to be here. And there's so many amazing locals and traditions, and it's really safe and it just feels really abundant. And so I think that's how it really grew. So it was just sort of step by step. It was like, okay, I guess we're really putting down roots here. And so although the love of travel has never stopped, I get itchy feet like heck, being like, I really want to travel. I really want to like even just get out of the city, you know what I mean? And go on an adventure, see something new. It was really nice to also have that feeling of community, like a place where I know people, people know me, and we could set down some roots. A place that like we literally had no intention, no idea that this was going to turn into this. I mean, it was just, we were coming here for a volunteer thing that Nate found. We didn't know what Mérida was. We did a little bit of research, and one thing led to the next. So it's kind of crazy how things can happen. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of like give you guys an overview, whether you're new to the channel or you've been here for a while and you know our story. Things have definitely evolved in terms of this being our home base in Mexico. And with that, it was a couple of years ago, my good friends knew that Nate and I decided, you know what? Maybe it is time to try and have a baby. This had been something that, especially me, I was a little unsure of, because we did have this adventurous life and all these dreams, whether it was dreams of, you know, making movies or Nate's businesses or traveling, like all these different things. And we just kind of kept putting off having a baby. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that, if I was cut out to be a good mom and all of that. I mean, because it's such a life-changing decision, right? But at some point along this timeline, it was like, well, why not? Like, let's try. So something shifted and we just decided, okay, we're gonna try. It took us about 10 months. Eventually I did get pregnant. And actually right before I found out, was on Mother's Day of 2023. We were on a work trip in Phoenix, like right before that. So like I was pregnant when I was on that work trip. Like that just sort of blows my mind. And before that, we had been, for Nate's birthday, we had been in Guatemala for like a couple of weeks. So, you know, just kind of crazy. But anyhow, it was a big turning point, because it was like, well, not only are we setting down roots here, and not only are we changing our life with having a baby, we're having a baby abroad. It's almost like deciding a little bit of the fate of the baby you're gonna have, because not only is she a dual citizen, at this point she has dual passports. It just blows my mind, like the amount of opportunities that she will have just by being born here from immigrant parents, you know? So that was the really, things had already been evolving, but that was like, bam, huge pivot in our lives. And I think with that, I kind of just want to talk about how not only are we settling in deeper here and becoming parents, but I feel like because we became parents here, it's tied us even more to this land. Also during the pandemic, Nate convinced me that we should buy a house here. We were able to get an amazing property in Centro, in this up and coming neighborhood called La Ermita. I mean, honestly, it's probably worth 3 times what we got it for. It is basically a complete renovation project. It needs to be almost completely torn down and redone. Some of the parts of the house might, you know, like the walls and certain things we might be able to restore and keep. But it's this amazing property with a huge backyard and like beautiful trees and everything. So there's that. And then with having the baby, it's like that whole experience of being pregnant here and giving birth here. And then now she's growing up here, you know, although we've traveled to the United States and we've seen family and families come down here, it's like, she's like Mexican, like she is growing up here. I think that's really interesting. We have this desire for her not only to be bilingual, but to be bicultural. So, you know, still need to figure out like, what is the schooling system looking like? I've started to think about that. I have friends here that have kids. Some of them have kids that are older than Sophia. And so they have talked about the school experiences. Some of them good, some of them not so good. But there's all kinds of different options and choices, whether you want to do, you know, a bilingual school, a public school, a private school that's offering like Montessori or Waldorf education, whether you want to do part homeschool or part world school. There's so many different kinds of schooling that we can think about, and that's really important. So, you know, there's been a lot of other things just in terms of like, we found this amazing nanny through a nanny finding service, and she's almost become like a family member. She's from Mexico City, she's bilingual, she's so sweet, and that support has been amazing. So yeah, I just want to talk about the pivot and like what's been up with us and like where are we going with the channel. So with this rebranding, as I'm starting to put that together and like, well, what is the future of this channel? What is the future of Native Nomads? I really wanted to focus more on family life abroad. So what is it like to have a family abroad? Being expats or immigrants or whatever you want to call it, living in a country that you weren't born in and starting a family there. What is that like? So the journey of that is huge. Just insightful videos about raising our daughter, bilingual parenting, local culture, community life. Also creating our dream home. So this has been a project in the works, sort of in the background for a while, but working with a local architect and getting the designs how we want them and really envisioning what we want and then building that from the ground up, literally. So we're not there yet where we're building, but we are in the designing process. The van life and conversion, that's been a whole thing. We got the van 2 years ago and there were some complications in the process that we didn't realize. Not being completely fluent in like Mexican law and then even working with like a friend who's also a lawyer, there were some things, important steps that were missed. And unfortunately, it took us 2 years to get the factura because we didn't get the original factura when we bought it. So anyway, it's taken us 2 years working with a lawyer to get that original factura for the van basically in our name. And now we can register it and then start working on what our vision is for converting that. So that's also been in the back burner because, you know, I had a baby and we've been adjusting to parenting life here and all kinds of stuff, other travel and work and da-da-da-da. Another thing that we'll be talking about is just family travel around Mexico and the world. And this looks different than before because before it was just me and Nate, you know, footloose and fancy free. But now add a baby to the mix and things look quite a bit different. Some ways, like, I find that it is harder, of course, but in other ways, it's like so blissful just to travel the world kind of a little bit through her fresh eyes and like seeing like just the adorable things that she does and how she lights up other people's lives. And that offers actually more exchanges for us because she's like a little icebreaker. She is so not afraid of anything. She'll just go right up to somebody and practically sit in their lap. And so it's been really cool to kind of open up our worlds a bit more as we travel with her, or even up as we just live abroad, like here in Mérida. The other thing is, you know, just the practicalities. Like we have to pack a lot more. We stay in, you know, different kinds of accommodations now because of her. And we don't stay out as late, you know, those kinds of things. So in these videos, we just want to give a raw experience of that, but also like, what are practical tips? What are things that we learned the hard way? What are guidelines to help you if you also have a young family and you're traveling with them? Another thing that I really am interested in doing is archival travel videos. That's just what I'm going to call them for now, but basically putting out content like I did the other week, the Portugal van life series. That was from like a few years ago. And guys, like I had a full-time job right after that, and then had a baby, and just so much happened. And so a lot of footage has just been sitting on hard drives, needing to be edited. This is like my own pet project, and so we'll be putting those out, and it'll just be kind of fun to like look at what was life like before the baby, but also just to be able to really give those special trips and moments like their time to shine. And so even if it's a couple years late, that's okay. So we'll be putting out some of those. And then just documentary updates as far as Faces of the Modern Maya. We are still working on it, and it's going really, really well actually, in terms of the editing and the translations, and just like really coming together what the story is, why is it important, what kind of impact do we want to make with it. So that's been really exciting going on in the background. Yeah, so this is what we're doing, guys. This is where we're changing. Family life abroad, creating our dream home here in Mérida, Mexico, van life and conversion, family travel around Mexico and the world, and archival travel videos, as well as documentary updates. So I'm really hoping that you guys are excited for these new types of videos that are going to be coming out. Would love hearing your feedback. Like, what do you guys think about this? What do you want to see? What are you curious about? Leave any of your comments or questions below. I would love to hear from you guys. It's been a while. And thank you guys so much for being here on this journey with us. Life just changes, like that's inevitable. And so thanks for your continued support. And for new viewers who are just getting to know us, please subscribe, hit that bell to get notifications, and join us on this journey. So thank you guys so much. See you soon in the next chapter of Native Nomads. Bye, guys.